Good morning, everyone. So I wanted to come on here and talk about a little bit more of my Montessori experience. So I believe I mentioned it before, but I used to attend a Montessori school and then I actually came back and taught at the very same Montessori school. So a lot of you guys have been asking about just sort of some of our daily routines, how we did line time. Some people call it circle time or rug time. We just called it line time. And this year I'm actually teaching in a public school. So I've taken a lot from Montessori and brought it to my public school because it 1000% works. So in Montessori, like I said, we called it line time. And to get our class's attention, we would ring a bell. And I still do that in my third grade public school class. We would ring a bell. When we ring the bell, that means that everyone stops, you freeze, you're not drawing anymore, you're not working, you're not talking, and you're listening. This could be to say, hey, tidy up and come to line, hey, pack up and come to line, or French group, whatever. We would do that and say, come to line. For our class, we had the same seats literally throughout the whole year. And we would just move some people as needed because some people literally, you want to give them autonomy, and there's so much autonomy in Montessori, but you just got to do what works for you. And that's what works for us. So everyone would come to their seat, and the most important thing that we did the first week of school was line expectations. I'm drilling that in my class this year, how to behave on line. And something that we had was being in your mindful body, which means you're crisscross applesauce. You're not fidgeting with anything. You're not playing with your hair. You're not playing with your shoes. You're listening like you're sitting up, just being ready to listen, being receptive to whatever is about to be said. And that was really, really important. So on line time, if someone or if people weren't sitting in the right way, we would be like, okay, don't forget, you should be sitting in your mindful bodies. And then you would just see the whole class sit up. They would crisscross applesauce. They would look at their classmates. And we drilled that, but we acted it out the first week. And even this past week, I would act it out. We did skits of what a mindful body was not. And so essentially, once everyone got online, there would be a line manager. And so that means there was a student that would take roll, and every Montessori school is different, but there would be a student that would take roll on the iPad. And in our classroom, our kids loved to schedule. So we would have our schedule on our board. It was 1st through 3rd grade, a schedule on our board telling them oh, work time between 8:30 and this time, botany lesson at this time, lunch, blah, blah. And so they would go over the schedule. The line manager would also read the lunch menu. And then we would give our teacher announcements for the day. We've been seeing a lot of people not clean up their snack outside. What can we do about that? Just sort of giving them some reminders. We have any big projects or field trips? There was always a lot to go over. And the good thing about line is you can make it as short as you want it, or you can make it as long. So sometimes we would have students that would make lessons and have presentations. So when that would happen, it would take a while. And sometimes it would be really short. If we really needed to get back to work and had a shorter work time, it was the student would go over the schedule, the lunch menu, we would make our quick announcements, and then we would dismiss. A really big part of everything is dismissal. Getting up from line, the way that they get up from line is gonna set the tone for your entire day. I mean, really, if they get up from line and they're running, trying to go get snack, or they're getting up from line and they're talking, it's not gonna be good because it literally sets the tone and it's just chaos. So we would be so encouraging. We would say, okay, 3rd grade girls, you may dismiss from line. And they would get up so quietly and slowly, and we would be like, wow, the 3rd grade girls did such a great job. Let's see how 2nd grade boys can do it. And then 2nd grade boys would get up and they would be slow and quiet. And so then it just set the tone for the year, okay, this is how we get up from line. And then of course you always have those days where everyone gets up from line and they're running and they're rushing to snack, and you're we have to do it again. And that is something that I have really, really learned is especially in the first few weeks of school, if they are not meeting your expectation, at least for me, I am a 2nd year teacher, so no one has to take advice from me, but if they're not meeting your expectations, I would stop whatever I was doing and we would go over the expectations again and we would redo it. So like for instance, in my classroom this year, like, and I was talking to one of my friends about this. I don't know if it was Montessori or my school specifically, but having a good line was really, really, really important. Like your line represents like your whole class. And that's what I told my kids this year. Like when we're in line and we're going to gym or we're going to the lunchroom and other teachers see us, they're representing our whole group. And you don't want to run through the school. You don't want your line wiggling. And that was really, really important at my previous Montessori school. So this year we've really practiced like the expectations, but then if they didn't meet them, even if we were headed to recess, I was like, okay, now we have to walk back and we have to try again. And for the most part, I've only had to do that maybe once, and we had to go back one time. It hasn't been anything excessive because it's like they want to get to where you're going, so they're gonna do what you need to do. But I think like the most important part about having a successful line is a successful line time or circle time is having like very clear expectations and modeling expectations as well. So like the first few weeks of school, like I would make sure, and I probably should have sat with them online every single day. That would have been the like best Montessori thing. I also was not Montessori certified or trained, so I probably could have done a lot better in a lot of areas. But modeling like the first few weeks of school, like sitting online with them and making sure that you're sitting like in your mindful body. And just, it doesn't have to be mindful body, like that doesn't have to be your phrase, but having a phrase so that when they're not doing the right thing, you can just say a phrase instead of saying, okay, sit crisscross applesauce. Okay, so like you can just say, get in your mindful bodies. And honestly, it has really worked for my public school classroom too. Like they already know, like I'll be like, okay, now all of us are in our mindful bodies. And they're like, oh, and they look at each other and they know exactly what that means. And then throughout the week, I'll be like, okay, we've had some new friends join us. Can someone tell me what does a mindful body mean? And then someone will tell me. And then also, this is not line stuff, but I'll also demonstrate what is a mindful body at your desk, because a mindful body on the rug looks very different than the desk. So yeah, just modeling and just being like really, really encouraging. And especially like first through third grade, like students aim to please, like they want to please their teacher. They want to like be good. They want to be in a good classroom and like do well. So you can really, you can really hype it up. So yeah, I also use line time just to like build rapport with my students. Like if I had a crazy morning, I would tell them like my dog last year was like a puppy and always had accidents in my car. Like I had seat covers, and so like if I was late, it was literally because my dog pooped in our car. And so I was like never late to work. So if I was late, they were like, Miss Angie, did Bruce poop in your car? And I was like, he did. And then we would talk about it and just like build rapport and just like talk about our mornings. Also something else that we did was we did acknowledgements. Not every classroom does this, and other classrooms do it differently. So our class did acknowledgements online. It was a really good transition activity too, if we needed like something to do while we wait for like a guest speaker to come. But essentially someone could raise their hand and say like, acknowledge a student for something good that they did. So like one of my students might be like, hey, I acknowledge so-and-so. I saw that there was trash on the floor and they picked it up even though it wasn't theirs. Or I acknowledge my friend for helping me with my assignment. Like stuff like that. And it was really, really sweet, and it really built a good class culture of just like acknowledging your friends for like what they're doing, and like it was really, really sweet. And then another class at our Montessori school, it was acknowledgements, but they didn't call it that. They had like a jar and you could write like a little note, and essentially you would be writing down what we sort of did in our class of acknowledgements, but it was written down, and then the teacher like I think they did it at the end of the day, would like pull from the jar and like read it. And it was really sweet. So like I said, the most important thing about having a good line time in a Montessori classroom is literally just like having your expectations and like not letting up on it. Like last week, like I said, I'm not at a Montessori school anymore, but last week, like if my kids were not in their mindful bodies, like it was an immediate pause, stop what we're doing, and let's remodel a mindful body. And then like at the end of the day, I'd be like, wow, thank you guys so much for doing well online today and blah, blah, blah. It's just such a great way to like start your morning. And also in our class, we had line or circle time a lot throughout our day. We had it like, they worked for about 30 minutes, then we did line, and then before recess we had line, and then when we came back from lunch we had line. Now line, when we came back from lunch, a lot of times was our cultural presentation. So that's when teachers from the other class would come in and do history and science, and history and zoology, and then my teacher and I would do science and botany or something like that. And then, that's when the kids got to participate in lessons, and we would give them presentations, and then later on they could go out and get it on the shelf and do it themselves. So yeah, and I just even remember as a Montessori student, like line time was like really important. I mean, you're sitting there crisscross applesauce, you have your hands in your lap and you're listening. And it really just helps them prepare for their day. Because I mean, who doesn't want to know like what you're gonna do in your day and what to expect? And it's just nice to come together as a class. So yeah, those are all of my tips. You all have any more questions about like my Montessori experience as a student or teacher, literally just comment them and then I'll make a video about it. So thanks for watching.